Hey guys, Nick Sanka here. Welcome to our daily dose of fitness health. So yeah, um, today I'm gonna be talking on a topic that I'm really interested in, and basically it's gonna be about yoga, and essentially it's a style of fitness from the Eastern um, hemisphere of the Earth, and it's originally designed for helping helping for meditation and exploring your consciousness. And it's it's originally used in Jainism, Hinduism, and Buddhism, where like whenever you think of a person doing yoga, you either think of a soccer mom from New York with her yoga mat, or you think of a Hindu priest. But basically, the nowadays, like, there's actually six orthodox schools in Hinduism about yoga. There's few for breathing techniques. There's few for meditation. But the one that Western society mostly talks about is Hatha Yoga, which is yoga for exercise. And these yoga postures are also known as asanas, have a lot of health benefits. So on the screen, I have a image or from a website or a recording, basically with all the um, benefits of yoga, and it's from Harvard Health Publishing, so I think it's a pretty reasonable source. And this, like a lot of this, is something I felt for as an improvement when I did start exercising and I started doing yoga myself. So, like I said here, it does show like the hatha yoga and like the pranayamas, which are for breathing controlled exercises. So when like if you're in the Art of Living Foundation with I believe the man's name is Sri Ravi Shankar. Uh, there's a lot of yoga that he does, practices that he does, and like every guru in India that teaches yoga has a separate style of yoga. The way it was explained to me was, I'm no expert on this, but the history that I learned when I first started taking yoga and all that was there are Lord Shiva, or was the one who gave yoga to the Western society, or not the Western society, like humans in. I was looking at the screen and I said Western society for by accident, but he was the one that brought yoga to the world, and he basically showed 108 ways you can do yoga, and each guru in India basically teaches one out of the 108 ways that you can do yoga, and all these, any one of them, will be able to help with immense benefits, as they say. And basically, everyone talks about the third eye. I've seen a lot of memes about how Shiva would zap people with his third eye. Essentially, the third eye, the idea of it is if you are someone who practices and achieves mastery in all 108 forms of yoga, you are in a space where you have talked with yourself and the universe enough, where you have been enlightened, and your consciousness has opened up to the universe. Right now, our consciousness is really binded down, and that's why our third eye is closed. Everyone has a third eye. It's closed because there's a lot of people who haven't even mastered one form of yoga, let alone all 108. And if you were to master all of that and acquire all the knowledge, you will achieve mastery. So that's essentially the history that I learned, and what you don't need to be a god essentially. So like it's not necessary for you to learn all 108, but if you take one and practice it in your day-to-day life for like a half hour, it'll help a lot of things in your life. Like the biggest thing I've learned for myself is I when I started doing yoga, I could see a huge improvement in my posture. And because for my size or the weight like that I had before, my shoulders were slouching down slightly. But like with my yoga now, I'm able to walk around with my shoulders a bit more wider, and I was able to control myself for a lot more temptations that I have. One of the biggest things was temper. Uh, as many people do know, breathing techniques do help with controlling your blood pressure, your pulse. I was actually able to control my own temper and bring it down whenever and bring down my heart rate. So that's one of the biggest things that helped me, and then it also helped me with my food. So here's a list of stuff that they talk about on the site that I have up on my screen. Um, so yeah, I have here the list. One, a better body image. So yoga develops inner awareness. It focuses your attention on your body's abilities and at the present moment. This is actually something that a lot of exercises do, like martial arts and Muay Thai. The biggest issue people don't know is the size of their limbs or the presence of their body, essentially being clumsy or stiff. They just don't have that flow. Yoga is the easiest way to improve this. All you need is a mat and space for your apex, essentially, if you were to stretch out your arms. Because for soccer, if you want to do soccer, you need a area to like run and kick a ball. You want to improve that by jogging, you need a trail. You want to improve that by martial arts, you need like a canvas and another partner, so on. But yoga, you don't need all that. You just need a mat, 6 feet in space. You can do it next to your bed after you wake up every morning. You don't even have to brush your teeth. So it's that way I think yoga is really effective. You can be a mindful eater. Basically, like I said, it helps a lot with self-control in a sense, because food itself is an addiction, almost like temper or so on. So you're able to better understand your emotional being, and you're able to think. Like half the times when you're hungry, it's not that you're hungry; it's just a temptation of like, oh look, it's chips, and like the biggest thing my mom would say is like I would say I'm hungry. She would ask if you're hungry. I'd be like, it depends, and on what's there. And then my mom would be like, you're not really hungry. You're just tempted by food. So now, but now with yoga, I know whether I can actually tell whether I'm really hungry or I'm just looking for a way to put my temptation through. So I think this point here, becoming a mindful eater, It goes for all different sorts of uh, issues. And then a boost here. Uh, Shit. People don't use Max ever, please. Boost in weight loss and maintenance. At the end of the day, yoga is an exercise. You're stretching, you're doing some sort of flexibility training. So all three of these are based in one section. And yeah, like it basically helps a lot more with like your lung capacity, and you're gonna break a sweat. It's gonna loosen up your muscles. It's gonna help you quite a bit. It's gonna improve your posture. It's gonna reduce your weight and all that. And we here, it's gonna sound ridiculous, but I know people that like when you do prayer. Like, I'll explain why I'm saying this. When we do usually do prayers in my house, I'm a Hindu, and my parents usually take me to prayers that we used to have once a month, but now we reduced going to them quite a bit. But because of Toronto not having that much of a community for that we're participating in, but essentially before we start the prayer, we have a thing where we would say Om for a good 30 seconds. Originally, when I started saying that, I would say it for like 10 seconds and then start gasping like and it was painful. I couldn't hold my breath, but like during that time I would practice a lot of breathing techniques, like holding my breath, breathing at a certain rate, so on, and just like having that control in my breath. And as it's called the pranayamas. And you my breath, my ability to hold that note actually increased quite a bit. I'm not going to do it on air, but I can tell you it definitely helped. So it's one of the biggest things that really does help. If you guys are interested, I will also share this link in my um in my like description. And if you guys are looking for any more advice, please do message me on Instagram, and I will answer them in the next video for this. Um, Next, I wanted to answer a few questions I got on my Instagram. Um, First question is, what's the best workout that's fast? Uh, yeah, so again, it's probably best to work out for a half hour a day. Because it's like asking a soccer player what's the best way to learn, or quickest way to learn soccer. But if I have to give it to you, it's working a minimum a half hour every other day, maybe 15 minutes. And what the days I don't have time to work out, I do something called a sun salutation. I do 10 of those. Um, it's a very nice way to stretch my entire body, get the blood flowing. It's a type of yoga, and my God, I think my mom's and dad are gonna have a stroke when they hear me say sun salutation. The actual name is called a Surya Namaskar, or Surya Namaskaram, and it's basically It's not that hard to pronounce, but it's composed around. Let me just check. You don't. I once heard the someone say, "Oh, I don't have a mat, or I don't have a mat, and I don't have time when the sun's there to do it." And I'm like, "Are you serious? Like, you don't need to have a sun, like the sun there to do the sun salutation. It's exercise when you need to do exercise." So, from the let me try to remember what steps I have. I'll put a link for this later on in my description as well. But for sun salutation, it's basically the standing pose. I start off with my hands at my chest, almost like in a prayer position. My thumbs are at my sternum, and I take a breath. Every step, though, during yoga, I inhale to extend and exhale to bend. So basically, deep breath in, stretch out. Then when I bend to the next pose, I let out my breath. Usually you want 5 seconds minimum per breath. And it's almost like the breathe in, breathe out when you do exercises in the gym. And it's called this pose is called the Tadasana or Dadsana, which is the prayer pose. And then I do the upward salutation where I basically put my hands towards the sky and arc my back backwards, stretch back, right? And it's called the Urdhva Hastana. And this is just, when your like back is stretched out, you put your hands on your hips or your butt and you just try to stretch out. It's essentially the same, but you just put your arms out to do it. Next would be this touching your toes. Don't bend your knees. Just try to touch your toes to stretch out your legs. It's called the Uttasthana. And then you just put your knees, or then after you hold it for like 5 to 10 seconds to just stretch out your legs, then you can Ardhasthana, where you put your hands on the ground, on flat, so you can bend your knees at that point. So that both will stretch out your legs, and then it'll help you get your uh um legs stretched out. So next would be the Chaturanga, which basically is your which is basically a push-up almost, and it's basically like almost like a Hindu push-up, and you gotta like go down, almost like you're doing a push-up. You stand in a downward dog. You slowly bring your head towards and arc it out, and I think it's called a Ramdev push-up in Hindi. I can do this. I'll post a video of me doing this sometime. And then once you do that, you will do a lunge almost. So, and bring your other leg up, touch your toes, and then stand up. So all these poses, I'll put an image to it on the description. If you can do 10 of these, this will help your flexibility quite a bit. Each one should take no more than a minute, so it's 10 minutes. It's the perfect stretch. It'll keep you nice and happy. So, next question is, thoughts on David Sinclair? If you don't know him, check him out. He prolongs life and food diet. So, Yeah, I do know him. His name, I watched him on Joe Rogan. He's a biologist from Harvard, and he discusses ways to extend your life. So I highly recommend like watching him. For me, I'm not into taking supplements as much because everything's out there is natural. Like everything out there is unnatural. You don't need excess supplements in your body when you can eat it naturally. Like unless you're like going professional. For me, I'm not, so I don't need to. So I won't be getting it. But if it's something that I found really interesting, and if you really want to try, you can. Um, Basically, a few of the things he does suggest that are natural are stuff like drinking green tea, which has a lot of antioxidants, eating healthier, like getting all your nutrients. Um, like the thing is, what I see people is like do is they go to McDonald's, stand in line for 30 minutes, and eat a Big Mac, and then they're like, "Oh, my vitamins are low," so that for health reasons they take supplements of multivitamins. Don't do that. Cook your own. In that half hour you wait, you get McDonald's. Cook something decent at home. It's cheaper, and that meat, like, you can go to the butcher store or the grocery market, and for $10, you can get a nice steak dinner. Why do you need to go to McDonald's and get their steroids filled beef? Yeah, like I'm not against eating meat. If you want to eat meat, be my guest. But what pisses me off is the amount of hormones people are willing to inject into our food. If you go to Costco or like Walmart or something, your nearest grocery store, I if you're in a small village, I understand, but if you're in Toronto, you're like, "Oh, I got to carry this stuff home." And I'm like, "How bad can it be? Just you're on I'm a student. I carry my backpack around. It's freaking heavy. I got a gaming laptop in there plus my lunch. It's not that bad. Just take the subway. You can get everywhere. It's one of the best subway systems in the world. So just buy your stuff at home. Don't take any extra hormones. Don't take any other supplements. Don't take those like 5 hour energy things. You can't sit there and be like, "Yo, I'm healthy," and then start eating a Big Mac. Please don't. But if you take all your vitamins from natural sources, take stuff like green tea for your hot drinks, it's going to be helpful. Second thing is intermittent fasting. Try to keep yourself in a place where your body. It's essentially intermittent fasting helps with the idea that don't try to eat when you don't need to eat. So it's it's an idea of like I said before, and yeah, just I'm trying to look for a way to word it where it's not nice. Like most people out there, the biggest like I used to be huge, right? Not like jacked, but like obese. So my biggest issue was if I saw food, I couldn't control myself. I had to eat it. And intermittent fasting basically told me no. You are not allowed to eat it, Nick, no matter how tasty that is. It got me my self control, and now, if I don't want something, I don't need to do intermittent fasting. I can just stop myself from touching that bag of chips if I don't want to eat. Eat when you're hungry. Don't eat because you're bored. Those are the simple things. My grandfather is 75 right now, and the man can still walk. He can still climb upstairs. He's in amazing health. No surgeries. Not doesn't even take medicine at his age. And the biggest thing, and I have a grandmother who's great grandmother who's 95, 96 years old, hasn't even touched an Advil in her life. The biggest things I've been told by these people is eat less, live longer. Don't eat because you're bored. Eat because you're hungry. Eat the right nutrition, eat the right things, and eat less. That will help your health a lot more than taking supplements, taking like a handful of pills every day. Like, how did like the people that live the longest, like monks and stuff? There's people in like the Himalayas that live off of like grass and stuff that live to be like 100 years old. Like, just eat right, man. That's the biggest thing I can say. It's the biggest mistake I did, and it's what caused my downfall. So, the moment I started eating right, I saw a huge difference in my life. So, that's my opinion on David Sinclair. Please do check out Joe Rogan Experience, the episode 1349. I love listening to Joe Rogan. I listen to all his podcasts. It's not like I have all the free time in my world. I do work, but like I listen to his stuff while I do my work, and it's really helpful. The man does a service to people, and he's what inspired me to do this podcast essentially. But yeah, um let's see what other questions we got. Let me just go through. Um, I guess not. Oh yeah, you guys are all enlightened about fitness. I guess my 7 episodes so far have worked. Um, what else can I bitch about today? Yeah, so far like I want to keep a little bit of anonymity when it like just in case this does. I have zero hopes that this will go big, but every time I hope for something like, yo, I want to do well on that test or something, never happened. So I have no hopes that this will go big, but whatever I hope for doesn't happen. So like this shit might blow up. So I'm trying to keep an anonymity. So that's why I block my face from here. But if you guys do want to see my face, please do let me know, and I will do it. Or please do buy my merch. Please do go into my Patreon. That really does help me out. With my Patreon, with my merch purchases, that's the money I will be using to get new equipment. That's the money I will be using to get a webcam, new devices. Because so far, right now, I'm using an old Mac, and I'm a software development student, aka I have some sort of intelligence, and I hate the Mac. Like I like what it used to stand for in terms of innovation, because if you took that generation iPhone and that generation competitor phone, the iPhone was leagues above it. But nowadays, it's horrible. I mean, Mac OS is a stripped down version of Linux with supposedly better GUI. I'm like, it used to be. Now it's not. So don't get your titties in a knot about how good the Mac is. Like, who's your hero? The guy Tim Cook, the guy that does sweatshop work in India and China and like sells you a $52,000 computer? Dude, I can get a Tesla with like Elon Musk's putting video games in there. Dude, I can literally get a car that has a computer where I can play video games on. That and the car itself can drive me. Dude, I get a robot machine intelligence chauffeur driven car with video games in it for 52,000. So Apple can right now Apple can piss off. But old Apple, I like. I would have loved to work for Wozniak era Apple or Steve Jobs era Apple. But nowadays, no. No way in hell. Alright, that's enough trashing of Apple. Unless Microsoft wants to sponsor me, I don't think it's the best option for me to be trashing someone. Alright, guys. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for the questions. If you do like this format, please let me know. All right? Take care, guys. See you.